What do you say to people that are skeptics? And I was like, wow, I never really even think about skeptics, to be honest. I live in a world where those who are drawn into my light come into the light, and those who are not are repelled, and I'm happy for that. I really am.
Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast.
Today on the podcast, we are going to talk about skeptics. Skeptics are interesting, aren't they? And, to be honest, I'm a huge skeptic. I know you're like, you talk to dead people? Really? You're a skeptic? Yes, because I have a high standard of what that looks like. It's not just, oh, you have a mother energy here, and I feel like there's an energy around you. Like, commit. You have a mother figure from spirit. I feel like she's your grandmother. Would you understand a grandmother in spirit? So when we read in mediumship, we are very aware, and I think the way that I was trained is that I'm very aware that someone can come in and be like, you're lying, or I don't believe you, or that's really vague, or you're fishing for information. And so for me, I'm always very aware that the information that I'm going to be presenting you must be specific. It must have things that I cannot Google about you. And it really needs to be about a poignant story. Like, there's a reason why you're here to see me, right? People, unfortunately, don't come to see me when they're in their best light, right? They're going through hard times when you come to see me. So I'm very aware that you have a need. And one of the things I'm trained with as a psychic medium who has gone through vigorous training and testing and certification is that to meet the need of your soul within the first really 10 to 20 minutes of your session. So I must become aware of it. And we're trained that the first sentence out of our mouth tends to be what the whole reading will be about. So even whether we're aware of it or not. So it's quite interesting when you start to just allow yourself to blend with your client and feel what it is that they need from you. So today's episode is really inspired by Christine. Christine and I had a conversation at an event that I was at very recently here in September of 2024. And she was so brave that she came up to me. I was a speaker at this amazing event. And she came up to me and within one of the breaks, and she said, what do you do about skeptics? What do you say to people that are skeptics? And I was like, wow, I never really even think about skeptics, to be honest. I live in a world where those who are drawn into my light come into the light, and those who are not are repelled. And I'm happy for that. I really am, because you make way then, those people that are repelled by my light are making way for those that are meant to come in to work with me. So I really just set the intention that, Spirit, please don't show me anything that I cannot heal, cannot serve, cannot change. And so I want to help people. So those people who are skeptics don't really come to me because I really am so unbothered by it. I'm not here to prove anything. And it's very interesting. I went through a massive healing in this last year because I was working with my dear friend who is also a shaman and a soul sage. And it really brought out that I had this prover energy in me, that I was here to prove that I was smart enough, that I was good enough, that I was worthy, that I got all these degrees. And I was constantly working. My main source of motivation was to prove that I was worthy. And it was so interesting when that came to my awareness that I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. it was like something snapped, something broke, like it was done. It was time for this to be released now. And I was no longer available to prover energy. And in that prover energy being released, I think I really also released any awareness of skeptics because I'm not here to prove anything. I love one of my mentors in mediumship says at the beginning of his mediumship demonstrations, which is when you are at the front of an audience, there's, upwards of, could be even 1,000 to many thousands of people in the audience. I did them usually around 50 to 120 people in there. I like to do a little bit more of an intimate group, and would stand at the front of the stage and as a medium, and we'd read the room. Spirit would drop in, the right spirits that needed to speak that would impact the whole would come in, and we would find our recipient, and there's a method to do that. And so it's called demonstration style mediumship. So you're at the front like on a stage, and you're reading for the audience, but spirit is leading the way, and you're finding your person. So it can be very difficult because there's an element of like you don't know where you're going, and there's a demonstration piece to it. So there's a performance. You can be. I've seen some really boring mediums up there, and you have to be very aware that there is many people in the audience. So you're facing the audience in the way that you're presenting yourself. It is very, there is an entertaining piece to it, but you're also the intermediary between spirit and the physical 3D world. So you're having to be very aware of yourself in multiple ways, but without being aware of yourself in multiple ways. So it is challenging. I loved it. I love it because it's a way to experience mediumship in a way that everyone can experience it. Even if you're not getting a message from your loved one, you'll experience that energy, because there's things that will come through that there's no way that you would know. Like I had one, it's interesting because I was part of a demonstration with two other mediums, and the medium who was reading, she's like, I have a horse here from spirit. A horse is coming through, and this horse was beautiful, and she was buried on the property, and there would have been a tree planted in her honor. So the person in the front row put up their hand, and they're like, that's my mom's horse. They knew right away. Yes, animals can come into communication because if they have something that they want to say, if there's something that they're wanting to communicate, if their person is going through a really hard time, and in this horse was saying that they didn't feel like they were being honored in a way that they wanted to be, and it was interesting because the medium sort of was like taking on the characteristics of the horse, flipping her hair, and like this horse was very beautiful and very loved, and this horse knew it, and the person in the front row was like, oh my God, yes, this was this horse. And no one else in the audience had a horse, that no one else had a horse that was buried in that manner. And that's not something that would, like, she would not have posted about that, obviously, on her social media. It was her mom's horse. Her mom was not on social media. So, when you come to being in an audience like that, if you were a skeptic, I think if you're a skeptic, there's two types of skeptics in my mind. One is a skeptic that's like, I'm never going to believe in this because if I do, maybe this is not on a conscious level, but if I do, it will shake my world to the core, and I don't know what to do with that. Right? So there's that kind of skeptic that like, there's nothing you can do to prove it to me. And then there's a second type of skeptic that's like, I've not experienced it, so I don't know what to think. So it's not like a hardcore, like, no, naysayer, it's never going to happen. I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to listen to it. Like those people are never ready for me. They're not ready for me. And that's fine. They never have to come near me at all. I'm not interested in that. I don't have any prover energy left in me. So it's fine. I'm not here to prove anything to you. But the second type, where you're just kind of like, I'm looking for evidence. I want to understand if this is truth. And how do you know that it is truth? What about this experience is real for me? So what my teacher will say at the beginning of his demonstrations is he'll say, I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm here to show you that there is evidence of something. What you do with that evidence is up to you. There's no way I would know this. And my teacher was actually a part of a lot of experiments where they would test him, and they would put him in a different room with empty chairs. He would not see who was sitting where. Everyone would change chairs, and then he would do a reading and say, I'm with the person in the middle row at this chair, and this is who I have for them. And he's very specific. He has names. He's like so good, one of the best in the world, if you ask me. And then the person in the room would say, do you understand that, to the person who's sitting in that corresponding chair, and it would be correct. So there's these experiments that they do often in mediumship to sort of show the intelligence of the spirit world, and to show that this energy or consciousness exists after you're passed away, after your body dies, right? Your body is just a vessel for this lifetime. So this, skeptics are very interesting energy to me. It's prover energy. I'm not interested in that. I don't call a lot of skeptics into my world for that reason. I think I'm really just not interested, and I'm here to help people with transformation. So skeptics aren't interested in that. And then skeptics also aren't interested in my prices. So they're not interested in paying the price that I charge for my readings, which is fine. I'm very happy with that. And I know I'm in the right price point with that for me. But I had, in my early days, I did have a skeptic, which is, again, I feel it's like the latter skeptic, the skeptic that was like wanted support, but wasn't quite sure of me, which is fine. So I used to read for clients in my house before the pandemic, and I would have a little reading room downstairs in the kids' kind of rumpus area. So I would kick the kids out of there on a weekend or on an evening, and I'd put up my little dividers. I'd light my candle. I'd have my table. The dividers would hide all the toys and the mess behind the scenes. There was a bathroom down, it was in my basement, so they'd have to come through the house, go down the stairs, and come sit with me. And so this lady, I knew she had been referred because she said, my sister sent me to you. And I said, perfect. Please do not tell me who your sister is. Those days, it was either a text or a DM or an email to me. And I didn't know your name. I didn't have to, you would pay me in cash afterwards when you saw me, there. I now take payment upon booking, because that way people show up, and online is a bit of a different story. So back in those days, and she came to see me, and it was for a tarot reading. So I pulled my tarot cards and I pulled them out across the table, and I proceeded to tell her about her life. She was going through a very tough time. She's going through a big transition. She didn't tell me nothing, y'all. Like, this woman, remember, is a skeptic. Tight-lipped. I could barely get a yes or a no out of her. And that's all I say, is just tell me a yes or a no. That's it. I just need to know that information is correct and it resonates with you, because this is an energetic, kind of thing. It's not like I see drawings and I can interpret the drawings. Like, this is energy. So I said, you understand that you are in a transition. You work in real estate. She's like, yes. How did you know I worked in real estate? I said, I just could see it on you. I feel like you're somebody that commands people, and I feel like you've been very successful in your life, and you've done very well for yourself. And I feel like this is a very, very long career. You own the name on your, of your real estate company. She's like, that's correct. I said, and it's no longer feeling aligned. And I feel like your staff have been leaving you. I feel like you're having a hard time with this. And I think you are thinking of giving it all up to go into something else, but you're not sure what. And she's like, that is correct. And it was like, how do you know that? Like, her eyes were all over the map, feeling like, what is happening right now? And I proceeded to go down, sort of talking to her about what's been happening with her. And there was an issue with her relationship, and there's a dynamic with her sister, and there was just a whole bunch of stuff coming up. And they said, in the end of the day, I feel like you need a sabbatical. Like, I feel like you want to go traveling, and you need to just go for a trip to clear your mind and get back to who are you without these titles of all of these things that you've been wearing, all these hats that you've worn your entire life, of achiever, of, real estate mogul, of money woman, power, and just go on a, eat, pray, love, just go and be in the world. And I feel like you're thinking of taking a trip to, I feel like Ireland. It feels like in that sort of area of Europe. And she goes, I was looking at an Ireland trip before I came. And I was like, yeah, that's really great. I think you should go on that trip, because it would clear your head and just give you some perspective. And I also feel like you have family, roots in Ireland, but they go back a ways. I'm seeing the bottom of a a heritage chart, like a genealogy or a family tree. That's the word I'm looking for. And she's like, that's correct. Like, you wouldn't be able to know that on Facebook, on anywhere. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's great. I don't know, whatever. What does it have to do with anything? And at the end of the reading, you guys are going to laugh, because at the end of the reading, she looked at me. So an hour has gone up. I've told her everything about her. She's told me nothing other than a yes, no. And then she did like, how did you know that? And yes, I was looking at a trip to Ireland, and flabbergasted. I was just laughing because she's clearly like, where's the microphone? Where's the strings? Like, I'm not moving anything, but she's trying to reconcile within her mind what is happening, right? How is this logical? And it's not. Unless you believe in the intelligence of the spirit world, unless you believe in energy, and reading what's in her auric field. That's what I was doing. So I didn't say anything to her that she hadn't been thinking about. And that's a good psychic, right? A good psychic is going to be able to sort of see what's happening in your auric field, reflect that back to you. And then now the potentiality, the free will on the other side is all up to you. So I said, if you go on this trip to Ireland, you could clear your head. You're going to connect with your roots. I feel like you're going to come back a new woman, and you're going to change your perspective on things. If you decide not to go to Ireland and you stay here and you stay in your business and you keep slogging along, I feel what's going to happen is I feel like you're going to get sick. I feel like the business is going to continue to fall apart. People are going to leave you. Your clients are going to get, somebody's going to have a story about you in the industry. Your name is going to get sullied. Like, this is all up to you. And I might be full of shit. I actually say that in my readings. The best mediums and psychics are about 70% correct, right? We're not ever 100% correct, because there is no 100% certainty, because you have free will, right? You have free will. We're just reading what is already on your mind, right? Which is a cool parlor trick, really. But I'm not telling you anything you don't already know about yourself, which is, I think, one of the reasons I'm moving away from readings, because I don't think it's very helpful. I'm just reflecting back to you. I could do that in coaching. I could do that in counseling. I don't actually need to do that as a psychic. I don't know. It's me talking the whole time, right? Is that really helping you? And sometimes I think people think it's just giving you permission to be yourself or to do the thing. And I'm not giving you permission. I'm just reflecting back to you what you've been thinking about. You've got to give you permission. It's not my permission that's going to change your life. Your permission is going to change your life. So this woman at the end of it, she looks back to me and she goes, well, you didn't tell me something I already didn't know about myself. And I laughed. I said, so the point of this isn't that I'm supposed to tell you something you don't know about yourself. The point of this is that I'm supposed to tell you things that you've never told me. And there's no way I could Google any of these things. And you're not on social media. I don't know. I venture to say that you're not on social media because you're very protectionist. And she's like, my sister said you were really good. I was like, who's your sister? And she told me her sister. I was like, oh my gosh. Yes, that is I had no idea that the two of you were related at all. I'm like, maybe if I was a good psychic, I would know that. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. Does this help you? Go live your life. Like, none of this matters really. Like, just go be you. It was really interesting because she was so like determined not to like it, not to like the process, not to think this is real, not to like me, whatever. I don't care. It's not about me. And I just laughed because that's the point of this. She's like, well, I knew all of this already. Great. I didn't. I don't know you at all. So it was really interesting, as a skeptic. She left there and her sister actually messaged me a couple weeks later and said she took the trip to Ireland and it changed her life. Sheetal, thank you. And I was like, I didn't do anything. She did it herself. Maybe I was the disruptor that changed her patterning enough to say, God, what is real? What am I doing here? What am I really, the masks that I'm wearing? So maybe that, I feel like that is my job in this lifetime, is to really be a disruptor. I'm definitely a paradigm shifter. That's why I'm here. I'm not, beholden to the status quo by any standards. And, these beautiful skeptics that come in, it's an opportunity for them to be shifted in some way. And I say, if there's a skeptic that finds their way to me, great, but let them be open to being shifted, and whatever they need, they'll get, right? I had a very old teacher, she's not old, bless her, but one of my very first teachers in mediumship. She often said to me she hated skeptics. And I saw firsthand when she read for my friend this, because my friend wanted me to be present. My friend was someone who liked to protect me. And so she would check out my teachers and check out these people in my life too. She wanted to be a protector of mine, which is lovely. And when we realized we no longer needed that protective piece, it changed our relationship. And this teacher, as she was sort of challenged with a skeptic of if her abilities were real, she shut down. She completely shut down. She's like, I don't like this. I don't know why I'm here. If you don't want a reading, why am I doing this? And I reassured her that it was fine, that my friend actually did need the reading. She just wanted me to be present. And the things that she was saying was correct, but she started to get flustered. Right. And this is what happens in real life to us, right? Is when somebody doesn't believe in you or someone is challenging you. So whether you're a psychic, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a designer, whatever you do in your life, if you're a coach, if you're a therapist, whatever it is that you do in your life, if somebody challenges your knowledge or thinks that you aren't really true, you're a hack, you're not real, you're phony bananas. That's like, I think one of our biggest fears in life is someone saying you're not authentic, you're not who you say you are, you're not qualified, who the hell do you think you are, is one of our biggest fears, right? It's being called out, the imposter. Someone's going to find out that I'm truly an imposter. I read in an article once that Maya Angelou, the great poet, every time she published a book, she was so scared that people were going to find out she was a fraud. Right? This woman went down in history as one of the greatest poets of all time. Was at the inauguration ceremony for, I think, Barack Obama. She led movements with her magic. Like, her words changed this world, and she always felt like a fraud when she put things out into the world. And I just thought, that is so wild that someone that's so accomplished, and she's got degrees and she's got all the accolades and the credentials, and she's published books. And even my astrology teacher, every time she published a book, I think she had 12 books published. So accomplished. She was always kind of like, I wonder if this one's going to sell. I wonder if this one's going to go. I don't know. Is that way to find out this is a fraud? Like, I'm a fraud. I mean, she never thought she was a fraud. But, with Maya Angelou, I heard the same thing about Jennifer Lopez, whether that's true or not. But there's this kind of, it's this belief in self is one of the greatest fears. Like, is this true? Is this real? Will the world see me as this, or will they think that I'm not this? And so, I think in a skeptic, if you have that wound within you, and I believe me, I had that wound, is that then if it's poked in the world, it will be amplified. Right. And then I think that's what I saw with my teacher. And then I had a very interesting experience. When I was first starting out as a medium, I was really, really worried that someone would say, but you didn't get the code word. You didn't get my magic password that I have with my loved ones in spirit. I was like, sometimes that comes in, but sometimes it's more about the story of them, right? I mean, that's literally the name of this podcast and the name of my business, Story of Spirit, because the story of your spirit is the most potent thing. It's not the magic password that your family has, or your password with or the dragonflies or the dimes, or it's really your story. Your legacy is your story. They say there's 2 times that you die. The first time is when you take your last breath. The second time is when they stop talking about you and telling your stories. So the way that we keep people alive is by telling their stories, right? And so when we come back to, this, like, what is your story? That is, as a medium, I think is the most potent thing, because that's your loved one's story with them. I had a reading once where a lady, her grandmother, I think it was grandfather, I can't remember the details of this story. So it's a great story, isn't it? Especially for a podcast. It was a grandfather. It was coming in to talk to his granddaughter, and he wanted to talk about a teddy bear that he gave her at a fair, and it was a carnival. when she was little, they took her to a carnival and he won her a teddy bear. And he wanted to talk about that teddy bear because he showed, or the way that became aware of it, is that the teddy bear was now being gifted to his great grandson. So she had just had a baby, and acknowledging the baby had been born, and the name of the baby had something to do with her grandfather, so its great grandfather. And they had not announced, I think they had not announced the name, or the name was there but it's his middle name or something, that she's like, there's no way you would know that. And she gave her baby the teddy bear. The teddy bear sits in the baby's crib. And so the grandfather wanted to acknowledge that, which was so beautiful, right? It's love transcending time and acknowledging that this teddy bear that was given to her with so much love that she carried around for all these years is now being passed down to the next generation. And he just was so excited and loved. And that story was more poignant than any password that, she might have had with her, if this medium is real, if this is real, you make her say sunflower, then I'll know this is real. Okay, the teddy bear, like that's pretty real. Like there's no way I would know that, right? So that, I feel like, speaks enough volumes. I don't have to get a password. I'm really not interested in passwords myself or names. I have a hard time with, I'm trying my best to remember all the names. I wrote down Christine's name because she inspired this session or this podcast. But I am trying my best, but who I am in life reflects in my mediumship. So I likely am not going to get a whole bunch of names, right? Because that is not the most important. I mean, as names are important about you, and I want to get names correct because my name is very interesting and different. And I honor people's names, but I try my best to remember them. So that part of it. So I was really scared that I wasn't going to get people's names right, or get the password, or, get those details correctly. So my brother gifted me one year for my birthday, tickets to see Teresa Caputo, which is the Long Island medium. She has her own television show, and she's a very flamboyant medium. She's wonderful. She's got a real gift. And I had her book. I was hoping she would sign it. I was sitting on the floor in the middle, and she never did come close enough to sign my book, which is fine. But one of the reasons why I was there was that it was so interesting, because I'm like, why am I here? Because she's not going to sign my book. I mean, that's so ridiculous that I was thinking she would sign my book. I did bring it. It was on my lap. I was very hopeful. But what I was there for is she did a reading. She said, I have, and it's a crowd of thousands, right? It's at one of our stadiums here in Edmonton, and it was filled. Like, I counted the seats, of course, being an entrepreneur, and there was at least 5,000 people there, right? So very, very big. So it's very challenging to try to find your recipient. So she said, I have 4 siblings that are here. Your mother is here, and your mother is pointing out that each of you have her ashes in lockets around your neck. So I have 4 siblings here whose mother in spirit, and you have her ashes in a locket around your neck. So in the first row, there was 4 siblings, and they all put up their hand. So she went to them and she gave them a reading each from the mother. So she said, you've got a tattoo in memory of her. You named your daughter her name. You've got her car, and you're driving it, and you have her bracelet in your pocket. So it was very, very potent. And each of them, it was correct what she was saying, because the mother was sort of helping her with that. And the oldest sibling, and then she also said, one of you is not handling this passing in a way that's good for the other person. There's animosity amongst the siblings because one of you has not been handling it properly, and the other sibling is quite mad about it. And the oldest sibling, which was a gentleman, looked down the line, and his sister, in the second one over from him, she kind of shrugged her shoulders and yeah, you, buddy. And he's like, me? It was funny because we were watching it all unfold on the screen. They had cameras, right? So we could see everything. It was hilarious. It was exactly correct. The mother and Teresa was exactly correct. So the oldest son, who these are people in their 40s, y'all. So this is they're older. And so the oldest son stands up, who's, probably looks like he's about mid-40s or so. And he picks up the mic and he said, okay, Teresa, so I said to my mother, if this is real, you're going to tell us the password. What's the password? And I was like, oh, it's my fear, right? And she's like, you want an effing password. She swore. a lot. Effing password. And she started to pace back and forth. She's like, I told you about the name. I told you about the christening. I told you about the jewelry. I told you about all that stuff. Your mother has worked hard to get all this information to me, to you, but none of that matters because you want an effing password. She's like, yeah, I can tell you what to do with that password right now. And we're all laughing, right? The audience is laughing. And she's mad because she's like, you are not paying attention to what is really important. And I remember sitting there going, oh my God, this was for me. This is why I'm here. Because it's not about the password. It's about believing that you are giving the most authentically important, potent information, because that is what the spirit wants you to experience and to share. And that's important. And if the client gets derailed with, oh, what's the password? Or, oh, I was wanting a name, or how is this real? My job is to say, then you need to take this recording and you need to listen to it and ask yourself the question, why is that important, but not everything else that she said? Why is that important? And I need to sit with my truth and my strength in knowing that I'm a good medium, knowing that I am good at what I do, and I don't need anyone's permission. I don't need anyone to tell me that. And I'm certainly not waiting for anyone to give me a stamp of approval. Like, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking for that, and it doesn't matter to me. So I think, skeptic energy doesn't bother me because I don't have any prover energy left in me. So it's not something that I think about. And, when skeptics do come and they're like, oh, you could Google me. It's like, if I say anything to you that is Googleable, I shouldn't be in business. I shouldn't be, because that's not why I'm here. I'm here to tell you things and share with you things about yourself so that you can see yourself in a new way. And that is going to open your mind to the need of your soul. Because that's why you're here, is that you have a need, right? If it's a need to prove me wrong, good luck. I don't care. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care about you and your opinions. Like, I know who I am. And I think that's one of the greatest things about self-development, is that you're unshakable in your knowledge of who you are. And the final story I want to share with you on this topic of skeptic is I had a reading this year from someone who came highly recommended. And this woman got very, very, very upset because I didn't understand the process. Number one, I sort of had said, it says on her website that she channels from her guides to help you in your life. So I was like, perfect, help me. I don't know. I was at a crossroads. I wasn't sure where to go. And I was waiting for that. It's kind of like that little nudge in a direction. And so she said, so tell me what's happening in your life. I said, oh, I thought this was a reading. And she's like, you think that this is what, 1-800 Miss Cleo? I said, well, you say that you channel from your guides to give support. So I assumed that this was like a reading. Is this a consultation? She goes, you're trying to trick me. You're trying to prove something. And I was like, I'm not. I really am not. Like, I'm so sorry. And the people pleaser came out. I started to fawn. And I was like, I'm so sorry. No, I didn't mean to offend you. I really don't. You want to hear about, I'm in business and I'm trying to figure out, I'm at a crossroads. She's like, I don't take any money at the beginning because of this, because then I can let you go and say, we are not a fit and I don't owe you anything. And she hung up on me. And I was like, wow, she got lots of prover energy. It was so interesting. I had to sit with that part of me that felt like, did I trigger her? Did I do something wrong? Was I at fault here? And I hashed it out with a friend because I was like, okay, this is what happened. Here's my part in it. I think I was a little bit like skeptical because I am a medium. And she was really angry. And I understand that anger is a boundary. So she felt like her boundaries were crossed, that I somehow got in to her sacred space. And I'm saying with so much love, I hope she took the experience and learned from it, because it really set her off kilter to a point of hanging up on me and yelling at me. She was yelling at me. So I thought it was really interesting experience, to experience it now, having a skeptic, come to see me and then being perceived as a skeptic, which I'll own that I was the skeptic, to be honest. I'll own that, because I was like, I'm not sure about this woman's abilities. She says that she's got some big, pictures and things and credentials that she's claiming. And even her little spiel, she was talking about how she's a doctor of chiropractic, a doctor of naturopathy, that she has all these certifications. I was like, Ooh, that's prover energy, right? Why do you got to tell me about all your stuff? Just tell me about me. Go into blend with me and tell me, what am I experiencing right now? And she spent 20 minutes talking about herself. And I thought, that's really interesting. That's prover energy. And that comes up a lot, and I think it's, if you don't have that under control, you will be pulled off kilter every single time. So the other thing Christine brought up was a really great question that I get quite often from my clients that have never read with me online, is that how does the energy translate when I'm not in the room with you? And I like to say, think about someone in your life and feel what kind of day they're having. Do you need to be in the room with them to know what's happening for them? Can you get a sense of what kind of person they are, or how things are going to go? Or if you're thinking about your day and you're like, oh, you're going to be meeting so and so today, you haven't met them before, do you get a sense of who they are? Right? It's energy does not need to be in the room with you. Right? We are in the 3D. We have a physical body, so we can only be in one place at one time. We are bound by time and space on purpose. It gives us a constriction in our lives to make us do something, make us like really have that motivation and fire to get going. Because I bet you what, like when someone dies in your life, you are reminded of your mortality and that time is fleeting. You don't have time, right? It's time to go now. Like there's no more waiting, you don't want to get to the end of your life because you don't know when that is. You're going to get to the end of your life. You're like, oh, if only I had more time, because time is the constriction on purpose. So we are bound by time and space. Spirit is not bound by time and space. Spirit can be in many spaces at any time. So oftentimes you'll hear people say, my grandmother passed away, but multiple people in the family said that they saw her or they felt her or she said goodbye. How is that possible? Is it because spirit is energy? Energy goes where it thinks, it thought. That if the thought is of you, it will go to be with you. That's why as soon as you think about a person in spirit, they are right there with you. It's like you're calling them in. So in indigenous culture, they ask you for 1 year to put away all their pictures and do not speak their name. They want them to ascend higher on the other side and not be so earthbound, meaning so bound to us because they're wanting to heal us. They're wanting to be present with us. They're trying to console us, in spirit. And think about it for yourself. If you took your last breath today, would you just be like, I'm gone, see ya, I'm out of here? No, right? You'd be like, oh my God, my kids are needing me. My mom is sad, or my husband is sad, or whatever. They're the people who are sad in your life. You would want to console them. You'd want to send them messages that you are safe on the other side. You would send them dimes or hearts on mirrors or rainbows or whatever it is. You would just, butterflies, like anything to let them know that you are here. And you might even, give them a hug or come to them in dream time. You would not just be like, peace out and gone, right? Because there are loved ones here that would grieve your loss. And that grieving of your loss brings you in. It's where you need the healing to help with the healing on the other side, because it is tying you closer to the earth's frequency, if you will. But you are still in spirit. You are not, haunting anything. You are here because you are tethered by love to these people and you want to help them. But you do have free will in spirit too. You do have free will as a soul. So if you want to be like, peace out, I'm gone, you can. You can go. You can reincarnate if you desire. But typically, I would say the majority of spirit want to stay and be part of your life. And we also have a high self. So a part of us that is tethered always into spirit. Think of it as like, in bumper cars where they have the top rung, the old school bumper cars before everything was electronics, where it was tethered into the top of the electric cage, at the top. And everyone had that rod that was attaching to their car, and you drive your bumper cars. That part that's tethered into the electric, grid at the top of the roof is your high self. It's that part of you that's always tethered into the energy of the high self, of spirit, of the universe, of God, if you will, God consciousness. And it is that part of you that's always reminding you that you are here on divine purpose. You have a divine mission and you're here. You are part of the divine. So that all-knowing self, that high self, So the high self will always be tethered into spirit, even if you reincarnate. So if you don't believe in reincarnation, I guess just wait. You'll find out after you take your last breath. There's lots of evidence of reincarnation. I feel like that is another episode on the podcast. So you do not need to be in the same space and place for reading, and the energy of spirit can go. Energy can move in ways that we as physical humans cannot. So you don't have to be in the same room as a reading. That's why I do all my readings on Zoom, and that was a beautiful gift from COVID. And I got to read with clients all around the world, different times on different places. It's been wonderful that way. And I actually don't see clients in person anymore because I like the recording piece of it. I like that I'm in my little studio here, and my kids are teenagers now. So that place in the basement has been fully grown into, and there is no space in my house for that. And renting an office to do readings doesn't really feel aligned for me at this time. So it's interesting if anyone ever asks you, but how can you feel it? So just think about a person. Can you feel them? Can you think about what kind of day they're having, or what kind of mood they're in, or you just get a glimpse of something or someone? It's because energy, we're tethered to each other by energy. So energy does not need to be in the same space as you for me to read it. And when your loved ones come in, for mediumship, I can feel them here as you can feel them there too. So, and they'll actually show me. I had a reading recently where the mother was showing me, she came to visit her daughter, and they were showing me giving a hug to the daughter, and I could feel goosebumps going down my arms. And I said, do you feel goosebumps going down your arms right now? And she's like, yes. So that's your mom giving you a hug. So every time you feel that, know that that is your mom giving you a hug and giving you validation for something you might have already thought about, because your mom just did that to me, knowing that that's also how you would feel. And she's like, how would you know? I said, I know, because I'm in a different room, and that is energy. This is the brilliance of this world. So this one has been a longer podcast, y'all. Thank you for staying with me to the end. But I wanted to really talk about that skeptic energy and all the forms of that. And then even especially talking about why we can do readings online, because that's what Christine was sort of like. But how does that work really? So she had great questions. Thank you, Christine, for inspiring this podcast. If you have an idea as something that feels like you want to hear more about, please drop me an email or go into the show notes. And something I don't think you might know as a little gift, in all of the show notes from my podcast, there are 3 questions to help you integrate deeper the topics that we talk about. Because one of the things I want to do more than anything is to leave a legacy of change on this planet. And the only way that we can create change is when we are introspective and we start to challenge the way that we've been thinking. Challenge old paradigms and how you incorporated them, and now what is really true for you. What is now coming up for you to believe is true for you? Because the programming that you got as a child, that can be changed, but it cannot be changed unless it is conscious to you. Wishing you the most wonderful day, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.